1 year on from Emma Raducanu Stalker hell, tennis still has a major problem dealing with crazed fans, writes Tamara Prenn. Before the start of last year's Dubai Open, Emma Raducanu's 2025 had already seen its fair share of false starts. Looking to complete her first full year on tour after bouncing back from a string of surgeries in 2023, the British number one had reached the third round at the Australian Open, with wins against two-seeded opponents in Ekaterina Alexandrova and Amanda Anisimova, before she was knocked out by world number 2 Iga Swiatek. A string of first-round exits in Singapore, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar followed before Raducanu returned to the UAE for her sixth tournament of the season. After an opening round win against Maria Sakkari, there were reasons to be cheerful ahead of facing talented Czech star Karolina Muchova in the second round. Instead, her defeat to the 14th seed came with far worse consequences. During the match, Raducanu became visibly distressed after seeing a man in the stands who had displayed fixated behavior, including handing a letter to Raducanu outside of the tournament grounds after beating Sakkari. The man is thought to have followed Raducanu to 4 of her tournaments since the start of that year and was later handed a restraining order. For Raducanu, this painful incident would have felt depressingly familiar. A UK-based stalker had previously received a 5-year restraining order against the 2021 US Open champion a year after her success at Flushing Meadows. More examples of tennis stars feeling threatened have followed in the year following, a terrifying reminder that the issue of stalking and abusive contact both on and off the court in the women's game is not going away. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Raducanu was offered increased protection at her next major tournament, Indian Wells, in the form of extra security guards. But even the additional provisions weren't enough to stem the player's wariness, as she noted in her first in-depth interview since Dubai in June. It was difficult, she told BBC Sport. It was emphasized by the fact I didn't necessarily feel certain or comfortable in my own setup and team, so it just added to the anxious feeling. I'm obviously wary when I go out. I try not to be careless about it because you only realize how much of a problem it is when you're in that situation, and I don't necessarily want to be in that situation again. Off the court right now, I feel good. I feel pretty settled. I feel like I have good people around me, and anything that was negative, I kind of brush it off as much as I can. While Raducanu was rebuilding, Swiatek, a former world number one and one of the biggest names in the game, was forced to endure threatening circumstances at another Masters tournament. The poll saw her preparations for her round of 32 match against Elise Mertens disturbed when a 40-year-old man launched a primitive and vulgar attack at her. In Swiatek's case, it was a man known to the star who perpetrated the attack, shouting jibes about her mother and her psychologist Daria Abramovich as she carried out her training drills. Only a handful of venues on the tour have private practice courts for the players, like Aorangi Park at Wimbledon. Almost everywhere else, practice sessions are open to ticket holders, another opportunity to catch your favorite player in action. Like Raducanu, Swiatek was given additional security after her team reported the incident to tournament directors and the WTA. A security guard stood in her box and another accompanied her during her on-court interview. But while beefed-up security is available for players who have reason to feel threatened, others have not been as fortunate. At Wimbledon, Kazakh star Yulia Putintseva was reduced to tears and called for security to remove a fan she perceived as crazy and dangerous as she toiled to a 6-0 defeat to Amanda Anisimova. The man in question is thought to have been targeting Russian players over perceived support of the war in Ukraine. Putintseva revealed post-match that she was simply relieved that no one was hurt and that unpleasant interactions remain disturbingly commonplace on tour. It was just an idiot, like saying something, and I was not afraid, Putintseva said, blaming her tears largely on a disappointing performance on the court. But I was feeling uncomfortable because there is too many idiots right now in the world. Wimbledon also served as a grim reminder of Raducanu's own issues with fixated persons. The man given the restraining order in Dubai attempted to get tickets to the championships, despite having been banned from attending events on the tour. The All England club's security system identified his name and blocked his attempt to enter the public ballot for tickets. News of his attempt to gain entry into SW19 broke just under 2 weeks before the start of the tournament, while Raducanu was preparing for her biggest tournament of the year. Wimbledon and everyone did an amazing job, Raducanu said a week later. I got a notification, the police contacted me and told me everything was going to be okay. I know that I am not the first athlete to go through this, and I probably won't be the last, not just as an athlete, but females in general. Less than 3 months later, however, another female star was not as lucky. At the US Open, Muchova was left distressed by a man she described as her ex-boyfriend appearing in the stands during her second-round match against Sorana Cîrstea. The Czech star became visibly agitated after noticing him and appeared to wipe tears from her eyes as she attempted to pull herself together to see out the match. After winning the match, Muchova explained, "Opposite my bench, my ex-boyfriend sat down. He sometimes shows up at places where he shouldn't be. That startled me a bit. I told him to leave, but he didn't, but later he did go. It was hard to focus in that moment." Muchova is not thought to have requested that her ex-partner be blacklisted by the United States Tennis Association or the WTA, which would have denied him entry. But the incident underlines the threat tennis players face when they step onto court. Tennis stars, unlike other sports people, have a level of closeness to their crowd that allows for greater scrutiny. Spectators, particularly unwelcome ones, don't go unnoticed in the stands. Then there's abuse on social media, where stars are encouraged to spend copious amounts of time cultivating their brand. As Coco Gauff's seemingly private unraveling in the bowels of Rod Laver Arena at the Australian Open shows, tennis social media presence has left few places for players to hide from its constant appetite. While staying offline is not an option, there are few things to recommend being online, with the ITF and WTA in June publishing an inaugural 2024 season report tracking the abuse of tennis players across different platforms. 40% of this stems from gamblers who have placed bets on their matches. Using data from Signify Group's threat matrix service between January and December, the report confirmed that close to 8,000 posts and comments from 4,200 could be deemed abusive, violent, or threatening.